All right. So again, thank you for joining me. Actually, I don't want to butcher your name. So is it Gabriella?
Gabriela.
Gabriella? Can I just call you Gabriella?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, cool. So I have Gabriella with me today, and I'm gonna read the a very short excerpt from her bio that I found on her website, which will be in the notes of this interview once it's uploaded. So Gabriella is a speaker, author, educator, and mental health advocate whose work blends lived experience with the power of storytelling. The mental advocate aspect of it is really important for this particular story, actually, for those who, I mean, we're going to talk about the story later, but I didn't realize that was part of your biography, but now that makes a lot of sense. For over 20 years, she has dedicated herself to teaching and mentoring young people, which makes sense also, helping them find their voices and pathways to higher education. Her writing reflects the same fierce commitment to truth and transformation, moving seamlessly between memoir, young adult, sci fantasy, and literary fiction. And now that I've read that, okay. So anyway, before we begin the interview itself, Gabriella, can you just say your name, the title of the piece, and then go ahead and read the excerpt you have prepared?
Sure. Um, my name is, of course, Gabriela D. Ayala, and my piece is Cathexis, which is a short story slash novella. And would you like me to read now?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. So we're going to start at the beginning. The scratch of the needle on an old, dusty record slightly pierced Lily's ears. It was one of the many things that led her to therapy twice a week for the past 8 years, always with the same result: silence. This therapist was different. Lily could hear her every time and see her face every time, unlike the others whose faces were blank and whose voices were glitched. She could tell her therapist was eager to get in, to analyze, and to understand. Trust, however, is something Lily can't afford to give. Besides this new therapist, Lily can't remember the last one she saw more than once, until now. For the past 3 weeks, Lily has tested this new therapist with stubborn silence, because what else would you do if your entire life was mainly faceless and voiceless? I hope you like them. Arias are my favorite. Lily closed her eyes. She loved arias, but she hasn't listened to music since she lost it in the space between innocence and adulthood, when everything made sense and now nothing does. Lily took a deep breath, held slightly longer than one could. The first one she recognized instantly, Puccini, and she sank deeper into her chair. She had 45 minutes left now, long enough to imagine a world where she existed, participating in the daily pleasures allotted to others, just not to her. Nessun Dorma swells the room. With it, Lily made every effort to remain composed. She thinks she has a grasp on them, her emotions, but the music catches in her throat, threatening to escape either through voice or tears, and as of right now, the lump translated to tears. At first glance, her eyes are fixed shut, but behind her eyelids, an entire world is relived, the ones shaped by notes, by clefs and tempo changes, by pitch and practice, by solos and duets, with instruments and strings and woodwinds, a world that slipped from her, date unknown, but around a long time ago. Nesudorma stops briefly, handing over the baton to Lacombe's Flowers duet, and she asks her therapist for a favor. Could you please turn the music up just a bit more? Of course. And she let the duet linger inside of her, feeling every vibrato, remembering every forgotten note.
All right, and thank you so much. Now, when I first saw this piece, I had no expectations of what it would be about. And I must admit, I was pleasantly surprised as I started reading. And, when I read things, sometimes I could tell that the writer doesn't have much experience upon what they're talking about. But
Mhm.
the details in this piece make sense with what your bio is, because it seems like you have a lot of experience with this type of thing. And I'm only about three-fourths, I think I'm about three-fourths of the way done. I'm at the part where they have started to mention, I guess, a baby that might come into play. That's
Yeah.
actually where I am right now.
Yeah.
But anyway, so my first question is, what is your process of writing?
I wish it was as simple as like others make it seem to be, but it really is almost like intuition. It's like I get a download and I get an idea, maybe in the middle of the night, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And from then on, I kind of get this idea and I spark and I start brainstorming like on my phone, all my ideas about it. And then after that, then I go through the lengthy process of like really digesting what I brainstormed, taking what I resonate with, that I fall deeply in love with, and then I create my outline from there, and then I start the writing process from there.
Do you play music?
I used to, yes.
Okay, because like the therapy aspects of it, I thought the main character, Lily, I think her name is, the artist composing also sounds like something that the writer has firsthand experience about. But when you write, do you write on pen and paper? Do you do on your tablet, on the computer? Like, what is your process of actually putting the words down, putting the words down?
Yes, well, I have both processes in a sense where like I do write things down. I like to, but really for me, I need a huge whiteboard. And I have one, thankfully, from my teaching days. And so I really like to kind of brainstorm all over that, and I see visually kind of where I'm going. And then I start the plot outline from there.
And just from the title itself, I don't think many people be familiar with what that word means. But what is this story about? Without giving away the ending, 'cause I haven't read the ending yet. But what is
Sure.
this story about?
Absolutely. It really is in the heart of like women's suffrage, women's forced silence. And it is about cathexis, which is like having, in her case, such a deep love and obsession with writing music. But she's also an opera singer. So really her story is about being silenced back in the 1920s when she was this humongous opera singer. But really inside, she just wants to be a composer. And so it's kind of like this story about her journey, and hopefully she gets to the point where she can write her own opera, which she has. But really, in the 1920s, they weren't very prevalent, female orchestra and, composers. And so it's kind of her story about struggling with that voice, really ha having a voice, but really not having the voice she wants.
I think that kind of answers the next question. But if you want to add anything more, you can. So, how did you conceive the idea of this story?
Um, I I was listening to I got obsessed with opera for a second. I mean I love opera, but for some reason I saw an opera singer kind of like singing out there, and I was like, wow, wouldn't it be tragic if you know? And so I kind of built it around that just because I'm very big into mental health, and it's her struggles between basically like madness and passion, and brilliance, the edge of that. And that's why I really loved Lily and her story.
Did this, as you were writing, did it require much research into, I guess, the world of composing music and opera singing?
Absolutely. I had base, like I knew some of the famous operas, and I kind of went from there. So I did some research, definitely. I started with like what's my favorite, what's the most famous aria. Then I looked into Puccini's arias, which who is like, Toronto is one of the most famous ones of all. While I was researching his story, I found out that he had died before he had finished Toronto. And so I thought, what a beautiful way to kind of like create this fiction world where she was involved, with creating these amazing operas, but never got the credit for it because she was a woman.
And what tip would you give on, and these are all just general questions, so answer them how you see fit. What tip would you give on writing fiction?
Well, for writing fiction, I'd say have no limits, right? And make something extraordinary out of the ordinary, right? So, we there's so much beauty in everything we do see every day, and it really is your job as a fiction writer to capture as much of that emotion and to develop your characters extremely well so that the readers fall in love with them.
And of course, there are different short story forms as flat fiction, short stories, long fiction, novellas, novelettes. and novels. And this one is actually how many words? Do you know offhand how many words this is?
It's 20,000. So
All
it's like
right.
right on the cusp between short story and novella.
And what tip would you give on writing about a 20,000 word story?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I mean, some would say it is a lot of room. Some would say it's not a lot of room to develop something very well. But it really is. Lily actually started as a concept, cathexis, for a whole novel. It was going to be an interconnection between three generational women who have a mental health disease. And so that's how it started. But I just fell in love and went with the flow with Lily. That I just fell in love with her, and I thought, I just gotta wrap up her story. Like this is beautiful in itself. And so, like, even if you're aiming to write an entire novel and you fell short, like find the beauty in that and then transform your plot lines to fit the shorter amount of words.
And then can you name, let's just say novella. Can you name a novella that you feel was exemplary and why?
Absolutely. I definitely feel that cathexis is in the gothic kind of genre. If you didn't know, now you know. So for me, it was the Rose for Emily, right? From William Faulkner. And so for that, it kind of reminds me of cathexis in a way where we have this mysterious kind of woman. We don't know what she's doing. We don't know what she's lived through, but through the whole town, we kind of learn about her. And so with Lily, with the th third person, perspective, we learn about her through that. And so I believe and I feel strongly that those two kind of correlate. But yes, William Faulkner's A Rose for Emily is definitely one of the classics and what I feel is exemplary and what I kind of tilt towards when I wrote the novella.
And that's it, actually. That's just about 15 minutes. So before we go, do you want to give a shout out? Shout out means to anyone, any organization, anything you have that's coming out. So you want to give a shout out?
Sure, I have a TEDx Ensley Avenue Ed coming up on March 7th. I'm very excited for my first talk, so if anybody wants to come and see the video soon or come to see me, it's March 7th. Again, that's TEDx Ensley Avenue ED.
All right, cool. Thank you so much. And thank
Thank
you for joining me.
you.
I'm going to stop recording now.
Okay.